Hello everyone, welcome to the Jawbreaker. My name is Alan.
And my name is Jennifer. We named our episode Jawbreaker because we hope our content is jawbreaking.
In our last podcast, we focused on Thomas Hardy's view on capitalism. Today, we're going to discuss the sexism during the Victorian era through his poem, The Ruined Maid.
But first, who is Thomas Hardy? Thomas Hardy is a novelist and a poet, born in England on June 2nd, in 1840. His mother passed on her love of reading and books to him, built up his fundamental for literature at a young age.
He grew up in the rural area, which features prominently in many of his novels. At the age of 16, Hardy was apprenticed to John Hicks, an architect who lived in the city of Dorchester. This city would later serve as the model for his fictional location, Castle Bridge. He also once thought of attending university and becoming a minister, but the lack of money and his declining interest in religion eventually changes his plan.
Hardy first started writing when he was 17, though his first manuscript, The Poor Man and the Lady, was rejected by most publishers. One of the editors, George Meredith, still encouraged him to keep on trying, which leads him to set out to refine his style.
After the publication of his second and third novel, he's getting closer and closer to forming his style. In 1872, Hardy finally left architecture after being encouraged by his wife and started pursuing his dream as a full-time writer. With the publication of his next novel, A Pair of Blue Eyes, he's able to sustain his family by writing literatures.
After publishing several other novels, he touched on some of the sensitive topics at the time: immoral sex, murder, illegitimate children, and the unmarried living together. Heated debate and criticism overwhelmed him. At last, he decided not to write another novel and transferred his path to poetry. In the rest of his life, in addition to the poems, Hardy writes short stories and plays as well.
Fun fact, though Hardy made a living out of novel writing, he considers himself first and foremost a poet, because novels were merely a means of earning a living to him. Next up, we'll be digging into our main topic, starting with a brief summary about the poem, The Ruined Maid.
The Ruined Maid was written by Thomas Hardy in 1866. It is a bitterly funny critique of Victorian sexual hypocrisy. The poem speakers are a pair of former neighbors who find themselves in very different circumstances.
This poem is presented as a conversation between a rich young woman and her impoverished hometown friend. Amelia, despite being supposedly ruined by her unmarried love affair with a rich man, is living a much more comfortable life than the friend she speaks to. The poem critiques the conventional Victorian attitude that would condemn this ruined maid. If ruination is so terrible, the poem asks, why does being an unruined maid seems like the worst option?
The poem observed that if a woman chooses to trade her sexuality for financial security, she could live herself out of poverty, but she would be socially punished for making this programmatic choice. In contrast, though the sexual option seems like the brighter side in this poem, it's still not an embrace of women's sexual liberation, but rather a critique of economic of moral securities that left working-class women in double bind. Sell your sexuality and be ruined, or stay pure and poor.
Being ruined, the poem suggests, is ironically a big improvement on life or of impoverished misery. But Victorian double standards about women's sexuality means that Amelia's freedom comes at a cost. She may be wealthier and classier now, but she's never forever excluded from respectable society, precisely because she's ruined.
So, in the Victorian era, women can only be successful by selling their sexuality and sleeping with rich men?
I wouldn't say that there's only this option for them, but during that time, this phenomenon is seen quite often.
Wow, that just doesn't seem right for a woman like me. It's just like the sugar daddy thing that's going on nowadays.
Sugar daddy? What is sugar daddy? Is it some sort of dessert or candy?
No, of course not. Sugar daddy is a slang that is used by young people nowadays. Though there is the word sugar in it, it has nothing to do with the sweets. This slang can be interpreted by breaking it down. The first word, sugar, means money or goodies, and the person who provides it is a daddy.
Oh, this is quite interesting. So you're telling me a sugar daddy is someone that gives you money and buys you the things that you want for free?
You got half of it right, but those gifts doesn't come for free. You have to pay for it, just like what Amelia did in the novel.
Oh, so that's how they get paid.
Yeah, it's quite dark, isn't it?
But I thought those deals were thrown in the past already.
Not exactly. Situations like that still happen all the time. We only think they are gone because we have no connection with people who do them.
But if the world still works like a time in Victorian era, how would people possibly do this voluntarily? I mean, they will get torn down and beat up by the critics on the internet.
Well, it's clear to say that things aren't the same anymore. Though the situations are similar, people who do those type of deals doesn't necessarily need money that bad. Some of them only do it for fun. Plus, the world is much more open-minded compared to the conservative society back then. So, even though there are people doing this, for most people, we just tend to turn a blind eye.
I get it now, but personally, I still think this is an awful choice.
How so?
If you were to earn your own money by yourself, like most people do, work from 9 to 5 or at least do something more respectable, why would you ever choose to do that? By giving out your body, selling it as if it's some type of tool or toy. I just think it is dumb for those who do it, because they're making a fun for themselves, like telling others to use them as they want.
I get your point. I too have the same thought as you did before, but after I found out that some of the people I know do this as well, I started to change my thought towards people like them. The reason why is because I found out that those people who still the same as we are, they simply just have different values towards this topic, and by doing this, it doesn't make anyone awful or bad human being. They still work as hard as we do. They just treat it as some leisure that they can gain profit by doing it.
Wow, I've never thought that those people could be the same as us. I always thought that they're dehumanized or some type of weirdo. I guess it's my thought that was wrong.
Yeah, I think the most I have learned from the friend of mine isn't just about the sugar daddy stuff, but by having a more open-minded mind towards everything in life. Try to change your perspective when you are viewing certain things. By doing that, you will find that there is always a good side within everything.
I totally agree with that. Well, guess it's time for us to wrap up the video for today. Comment down below on how you think of this topic today. We'll be happy to listen and discuss your thoughts.
And as always, thank you guys for watching. We'll be seeing you here on the next episode of A Job Break. Bye bye.
Bye bye.